Pinkerton's Ghosts is a horror anthology podcast by Superversive Radio, with no affiliation with any detective agency, person, real or imagined, or the dark forces of Outre-Terre. It is not intended for children.
My friend Britt and I sat in a fancy office in downtown Boston. Britt was bouncing up and down excitedly in a low-cut sundress. I was dressed a little more conservatively. This wasn't my job interview. God bless Britt. I love her to pieces, but the good Lord did not bless her with common sense. When she told me a tall, rich, good-looking man saw her coming out of a bar one night and offered to meet her for a modeling contract, I felt my stomach drop. I decided to try the direct approach. Britt wasn't one for subtlety. Britt, you're being scammed. Britt squinted at me. Why would you say that? Because random men don't just walk up to people they know nothing about and offer them a modeling contract. There's a way you're supposed to do things. Britt looked hurt, which made me feel guilty. And how do you know? You aren't a model. This sort of reaction is why spending time with Britt could be tiring. Because I know how business works, Britt. This sort of thing doesn't happen. Britt rolled her eyes. You're so negative, Violet. That's the trouble with you. Why can't you just accept that I got lucky? It's true that I'd been more negative lately. Meeting Sean had introduced me to a darker side of life, and I was less willing to just accept that good things are good. It didn't help that Sean and I had a fight before I left New Jersey for Boston. We made up, but the specter of it still lingered. Maybe Britt had a point. Wait, I thought. That's ridiculous. I looked at Britt's annoyed but hopeful face. At least let me come with you, please? Britt rolled her eyes. All right, fine. Just try not to be a stick in the mud, okay, Vi? So that's why I'm sitting in this office, which was surprisingly swank with Britt. The decor did not push away my nervousness. So, Control. You're probably wondering why Sean had me record this story. Well, it all started when the secretary, a pretty young brunette with glasses, gave Britt a form to fill out. Britt gave a little squeal and started filling it out excitedly while I sat there lost in my thoughts. But she said something to me that caught my attention. Hey, Violet, what's a blood type? What did you just say? A blood type. Doesn't everyone have the same blood? No, there are different types. A positive, A, B, O, a few others. Why do you ask? Britt scrunched her face in thought, then shrugged and started scribbling. I'll just say A positive then, since that's the highest one. Britt, let me look at that form. Hey, said Britt indignantly when I snatched it out of her hands, but I just stared at the form for a moment as my jaw dropped. The form had typical questions you'd expect for a modeling job. Height, weight, measurements. But then it got weird. There were questions like blood type, how many sexual partners you had, how late you normally stayed up into the night, and how rare you liked your meat. I looked down at the form again, then back to Britt, who snatched the paper back from me, annoyed. I was filling that out. Britt, we need to leave. What are you talking about? I wanted to grab her and shake her, but held myself back. Britt, doesn't it strike you as strange that they want to know your blood type? She just shrugged. Not really. How about sexual partners? How rare you like your meat? Come on. Something isn't right here. Britt pouted at me. This is why I didn't want to bring you by. You overthink everything. At least let me meet the guy. Who cares what he thinks of how I eat my meat? Maybe he just wants to take me out to dinner. Something about this was sitting very wrong with me. And then I remembered something. After my run-in with a witch in the Chains of Morgana case, Sean got me special permission to access the Paranormal Pinkerton audio archives. It's a fascinating listen, and it can be easy to get lost in them. But I remembered something mentioned by Jim Donavan in one of his cases. He had filled out forms like this when he was tracking down a vampire. The pieces started clicking into place in my head, and my eyes widened. Britt, I said, my heart pounding but trying to remain calm, we need to leave right now. Before Britt could respond, the door next to the secretary opened and a head poked through. It was a man with long black hair tied back in a neat ponytail and wearing square-rimmed, executive-looking glasses. "Miss Brittany Fairview, you may come in." The man turned and saw me and raised his eyebrows. "Your friend can come in with you if she would like." I considered running, but that would mean leaving Britt alone, because she practically sprang off of the couch. As crazy as Britt drove me, I didn't want to leave her alone. Whoever this guy was, I walked into the man's office hesitantly beside Britt. When we got into the office, the man gestured to the couch opposite his desk. The office itself was well designed, but soulless. There was nothing I could point to, even a kitsch calendar, that would reveal his personality. The couch itself wasn't some tawdry affair, but a very comfortable and clean 3-cushion set. What little decoration there was made the whole room look black and white. The lamp's LEDs only made the effect stronger. I took a closer look at the man himself. He was large and quite buff, and wore an impeccably tailored, expensive-looking suit. His eyes were sharp, and I could tell he had both me and Britt closely examined even with the first glance. He almost looked royal in his chin and profile. I was concerned with his skin. As I suspected, he was quite pale. Unnaturally pale? Hard to say, but I noticed the windows were shut. I decided to give my theory a little test. "Excuse me, mister." The man flashed a smile, walked over to me, and held out his hand. "My name is Mortimer Drott. I'm the owner of this modeling agency. It's quite kind of you to come in and support your friend like this. May I help you?" I swallowed, but remained calm. His hand was quite cold, but terribly strong. After he had shaken both our hands, he leaned against the desk, arms folded over his chest. "Yes, my name is Violet. I wanted to know if we could open up the blinds in here. I feel a little cramped." Mortimer kept a smile on his face. "Sorry to hear that, but I'm afraid not. Sun's rays are bad for the skin, you know. Hopefully we won't be keeping you for too long." As I suspected, of course, Mortimer turned his attention to Britt. "Miss Brittany Fairview, thank you for coming in. Did you have enough time to finish the questionnaire?" "I might have if I hadn't gotten so distracted." Britt threw a dirty look, but Mortimer ignored her. I tried to think of what I could do. The police? For what? He hadn't done anything yet. The Paranormal Pinkertons? They were useful, but they weren't an emergency service. Sean had rescued me when I was kidnapped by Masons in Rucastle Manor, but he had been staking out the house at the time. Now he was in New Jersey. No, this was up to me, at least for now. Meanwhile, Mortimer and Britt continued their conversation. "Don't worry about those last few questions, Miss Fairview. I'll help you finish them out now." He took the papers from Britt and examined them. "Let's see. Are you available on weekends and holidays?" I turned to him. "I'm sorry, what?" "Holidays, miss. You need to work holidays for this job." I was sure he'd said holy days, but Britt didn't notice. "Oh, absolutely. No problem for me." I fished for an angle. "Britt, what about classes? How will you get your work done?" Britt rolled her eyes at me. "I won't need classes anymore, Violet. I was never good at school anyway." Mortimer said calmly, "It's true. My agency's starting salary is slightly above industry standard. We want to keep our talent loyal. It's our little secret." Britt was so entranced with the whole situation and with the admittedly attractive guy that I realized I needed to once again go at things directly. Can I ask, why do you ask for blood type? Or how rare models like their meat? Does that really matter for a job like this?" Mortimer was still smiling, cool as a cucumber. "Oh, those questions? Useful when you work on sets and things. Gets a lot of necessary paperwork out of the way in advance, in case there are emergencies. The meat question is just because on long shoots, we sometimes order food. Another little secret of our success is top-tier catering on long days." This satisfied Britt, but I kept pushing. Not to be rude, but why the sexual partners question then? Surely doctors can do emergency work without knowing details like that? Mortimer's smile didn't disappear, but something about his facial expression changed very slightly, and I found myself suddenly on edge. "What's your name again, miss?" "Violet." Violet Russo. I hope Sean doesn't find my use of his last name too forward. Britt started to correct me, but I elbowed her in the ribs, prompting a loud ow and a smack on the back of my head. Violet Russo, you say? Russo. Is that right? You're an interesting girl, Miss Russo. Perhaps one day you and I can have a talk about joining the agency. But in the meantime, Mortimer turned to Britt. Miss Fairview, perhaps you can join me in my private chamber while Miss Russo waits out here. I felt my heart beat faster. I knew I couldn't let this vampire get alone with Britt. It's fine, really. You don't need to leave. But Mortimer had already stood, and Britt was standing as well. His voice had a firm command to it. I must insist. Some of the contract details get rather, well, I think perhaps Miss Fairview will want to look at them on her own. Britt flashed me a dirty look and said, yes, I would. She took Mortimer's outstretched hand as he led her to a connected room on the opposite side of the office. I opened my mouth to protest, but nothing came out, and soon they had closed the door behind them. I looked around me desperately. Britt might have been a rather silly girl, but she was my friend when all was said and done. And I was not going to let something happen to her. But what to do? I thought back through my trawl through the Paranormal Pinkerton archives. Vampires did come up a few times, mostly in Sean's cases. They were super strong and super fast, and the more powerful vampires had a form of mind control, but this wasn't universal, and luckily, it seemed like this Mortimer guy didn't have anything supernatural. A wooden stake through the heart would do the trick. Where to get one? And how would I get into position to deliver the blow? No, Violet, I thought, you have this all wrong. You're not an action hero. You don't need to kill anything. You just need to get Britt out of there. I needed a distraction. But what? Then it hit me. An old conversation with Sean when he was telling me about his coworkers. Then there's Jack Morrow. Now that guy is a wild card. Did you know he once burnt down a children's hospital? Well, that's the rumor anyway. The case has been redacted. Both Jim and I really want to hear it. Why would he do something like that? Who knows? Fire comes up a lot with that guy, though. Call it the Jack Morrow special. He wrote the manual on it. You'd be surprised how often we just need to burn something to the ground. The Jack Morrow special. That was it. I didn't have long. I grabbed a couch cushion and ran it over to a wire connecting a large table lamp to the wall. I grabbed my keys from my purse and sawed at the wire until it started sparking. Success! In just a moment, a spark had caught onto the cloth couch cover. I blew gently on it, praying, and soon enough, the whole cloth couch cushion was on fire. I cupped my hands to my mouth and started yelling, "Fire! Fire!" The secretary from earlier stuck her head through the door, then gave a shriek. In a moment, the door to the room with Mortimer and Britt burst open. Britt screamed, "Violet, what did you do? You're ruining this for me." Mortimer didn't scream. He took in the scene with one piercing gaze, then calmly walked toward the burning couch cushion. Before I could protest, he picked up the cushion and, with one motion, slammed it down onto the ground upside down. There was a great billowing of smoke, but when he picked up the cushion again, the fire was out. Britt and I stared, mouths open, as Mortimer turned his gaze to me. Now that was quite rude. Would you kindly explain why you attempted arson in my office? I tried to hold my ground, but despite the level tone, Mortimer looked extremely serious. I gulped. The fire department is on its way. You need to let us go. You were free to leave whenever you wanted. Britt, too. Mortimer blinked. But your friend wanted to come here. Why exactly do you think I am kidnapping her? It was time to lay everything on the table. Don't think I don't know who you are. Your thing with blood, no windows, coming out at night, and just finding a random girl in the modeling business. You're a vampire. I fumbled for my rosary, holding it out in front of me. Britt, as admittedly per usual, looked utterly baffled. Violet? What are you talking about? For the first time, Mortimer looked genuinely surprised. You think. Then he did something I didn't expect. He started to laugh. A vampire? Oh, that's rich indeed. Truly amazing. Oh my. He took off his glasses to wipe his tears out of his eyes as I stared, nonplussed, as he collapsed into fits of laughter. It was genuine laughter, too. This was funny to him. Tell me the truth, girl, and don't bother lying because I'll know. You are familiar with the Autre Terre, right? What's your real name, Miss Russo? Busted. I'm Violet Hunter. My boyfriend is a paranormal Pinkerton, and I promise you he's already on his way here. This was a lie, but at least I could hear sirens in the distance. Mortimer cocked his head. Violet Hunter. Then he slapped his face and started laughing even louder. Okay, don't tell me. Is your boyfriend Sean Russo? Oh, this is truly delightful. Your boyfriend and I have met. My true name is Mordred Padam, and I can assure you I am not a vampire. Disgusting creatures. I find them distasteful. It is true, though. I prefer the night to the day. I felt my face turning red. You're... what? He sighed. Tell me, girl, you met the witch Morgana, correct? That would be my aunt. We sometimes find ourselves allies. I tried to put the pieces together, but it still didn't add up. So what's with this whole modeling thing? Why all the strange questions? That is information. It isn't necessary for you to know, Miss Hunter. Rest assured, though, that everything about this organization is entirely legal and voluntary. It wouldn't work with the unwilling. I blinked. Wait, what? Mordred sighed. The laughter was gone. Never mind. It is unimportant. Then Mordred cocked his head. His gaze narrowed, like a snake looking at its prey. You know, Miss Hunter, this is really quite irritating. I'll need to deal with firemen and perhaps police presence, and I don't know if you're telling the truth by paranormal Pinkertons. Their little paws dirtying my files will be annoying. Plus, there's a burn in my carpet. He took a step towards me, then another. I gulped and tried to back up, but tripped onto the waiting couch. Mordred stood over me, his eyes icy cold, his face an emotionless mask. One hand slammed down on the couch's arm, cutting off escape. He raised the other hand. Perhaps I shouldn't let you leave after all. It may harm my reputation if people hear about this. And really, I am quite annoyed, Miss Hunter. He drawed his hand back as if to strike, and for an insane moment I thought he was going to try and pierce my neck with his bare fingers. Wait! Before I could even finish yelling, there was a loud crack. Mordred fell to the ground at my feet as if a puppeteer had cut his strings. Standing behind him was Britt! She held the lamp from earlier over her head and was breathing heavily. Come on, Vi, let's get out of here. We sprinted out of the building, ignoring the yells of the secretary, and practically threw ourselves into Britt's car. We managed to make our way out just before the fire department showed up. I turned to Britt, who was driving. But Britt, why? Vi, I might not have understood what was going on, but I could tell that creep was going to hurt you. You were right. That guy was bad news. I threw my arms around Britt, nearly causing her to swerve into traffic. I didn't care. Thank you. Maybe thank me when I'm not driving. And well, that would be that, really. I expected to get a call from the fire department or police, but none came. Britt and I moved on. I tried to tell her to be more careful, but really, that's not Britt's nature. I just pray it doesn't get the poor girl into real trouble one day. Well, that's almost that. There was one other thing. As we drove, I saw something in the rearview mirror. It was Mordred. He was standing in the doorway, and he was laughing. That's what it looked like to me. He was almost doubled over, clutching his sides, laughing hysterically. He certainly didn't look injured. I don't know what that's about, but I thought I should mention it if you lot are planning on looking into it. That man scares me. Sean, is this how you feel every case? How do you stand it? It's horrible. Violet Hunter, signing off. For the first and last time. I hope.
Pinkerton's Ghosts is a podcast distributed by Superversive Radio, licensed under an attribution non-commercial, share-alike international license. This episode was written by Anthony Marchetta and performed by Ashley Seal. Ben Wheeler edits, directs, produces, and herds cats. Kid Dickerson performs our audio editing. visit us on Facebook, read articles on superversivesf.com, or listen to us on Unauthorized, Acast, iTunes, or Spotify. Contact us through Twitter at @PinkertonsGhosts, email us at pinkertonsghosts@gmail.com, or send us noble messenger possums with messages strapped to their backs. Don't worry, they know how to find us. Thank you for listening, and good luck.